Good afternoon, everyone on the call today, and welcome to the Valley Line Southeast LRT Virtual Spring Open House update for Riverdale and Cloverdale. A special welcome to the Riverdale and Cloverdale residents who have taken the time out of their afternoon to join us on this presentation. Thank you so much for taking the time. Today's presentation is brought to you by TransEd, Valley Line LRT, and also the City of Edmonton. So just a little bit of housekeeping. Today's presentation is being recorded, just in case you're unable to stay for the entire duration of it, or if you're watching it, thank you so much for that. It will be published on our website and on our social media and our YouTube as well. We will be taking questions and comments for the duration of the presentation. So if you are on your phone or your tablet, if you just go to the bottom of your screen, you'll see a Q&A. And if you tap on that, you'll be able to submit your question or comment. And if you're in a desktop or laptop version, you'll just have to escape full screen mode and then go to the top left corner, I believe. And if you click on the Q&A, you'll be able to submit a question or a comment. We will be taking questions again and comments for the duration of the presentation, and they will be answered at the end of the presentation. And on our virtual presentation today, we have Julia Laro, who is the Assistant of Community Relations from the City of Edmonton. Julia has a quick update from the city.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us. As Isabel mentioned, my name is Julia, and I'm supporting the Valley Line Southeast Community Relations team. We realize that you may have expected parking management to be with us today. Unfortunately, they were unable to attend. Should you have any parking-related questions, please feel free to reach out to them at epark@edmonton.ca. That's EPARK@edmonton.ca. Or you can ask your questions during the Q&A portion of this presentation, and we will take it back and get an answer for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Julia. And from ETS, we have Basma Faraj. And then from the transit side, we have Jan Dumont, who is the Alstom project manager. We have Dallas Linskog, who is the transit communications manager. And the voice that you're hearing right now is me, Isabel Onaba. I'm transit communications coordinator. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Dallas.
Thanks, Isabel. You owe me. I think we had a deal. You were going to sing on this one, and I'm a little disappointed that you didn't do that. But
we'll say that's okay. The last one.
Yeah, maybe that's right. So tune in for the next one, folks. As Isabel said, we are recording this. So those of you that have found us online after the presentation has been posted or on our website, thanks for clicking on the link and for joining us by that method. And of course, those of you that are tuned in live, we really appreciate that you've taken the time to spend with us late this afternoon. You can expect to probably settle into your chair for about the next hour or so. It'll depend a little bit on how many questions you have, and we're happy to answer all of them. So make sure that as the presentation moves along, that you're taking the opportunity to type in a question to us or a clarification, anything that we've said that maybe doesn't quite make sense. I mean, Jan and I will do our best to try and speak with less constructionese, as we like to call it, or acronyms. But if there's something that you need further clarification on, don't be afraid to reach out through the online question and answer process, and we'll get to those at the end of the presentation. Starting at a high level right now, just to quickly review the project for those of you that may not know, and I imagine most of you probably do by now. This is a P3, which is a public-private partnership with the City of Edmonton and TransEd. We're proud partners for sure, and enjoying our time working with the city on this project. Now, TransEd itself is a joint venture between 4 different companies. So we're made up of Bechtel, Elliston, Alstom, and Fengate, and together we form TransEd. One thing that's really important to understand with this P3 model is we're not here to just build the project and then disappear, as is a lot of the cases in most construction projects. The contractor comes in and does their thing and then it's gone. We're here for 30 years to operate the Valley Line Southeast system as well. So everything we do has a long-term operating period in mind, and that's really something that we're proud of, and we're excited as we move towards handing the system over to our operating group, which is made up of all the same companies that I mentioned before. 13-kilometer long alignment. You can see a map on the screen. Of course, we're focusing on the kind of the River Valley area today. We'll give you lots of good detail around there. But But just at the high level, there's 11 stops. There's a fairly significant park and ride facility at the Davie Station. That's a portion of the elevated track, the little blue section you see in the map. And then I also like to highlight in the downtown area, the connection to the Capital Line and the Metro Line is made through a building we call the Churchill Connector. Actually, the city called it that. We've just adopted that name. And that is the physical connection that you'll be able to make through elevators, stairs, and escalators between the Valley Line and the Capital and Metro Line. All right, a little bit of an overview of what the rest of this presentation is going to cover. I'm going to dive into some more details on construction across the alignment, but specifically in the River Valley area. I'm then going to hand it over to Jan. He's going to take you through the terrain testing and commissioning aspect of the project. And that's something that's kind of new right now. We're just launching into that stage. I think you'll find it very interesting. It's not something that many people are aware of, and we want you to really be leaving this presentation with a good understanding of the level of detail that it takes Jan and his team of electricians and professionals and operators that are going to test every single wire, quite frankly, that's on this project. And there are a lot. So Jan will talk about that. Then he's going to hand it off to Isabel, who you heard a few moments ago. She might sing, so stick around. You never know, although I kind of doubt it. But if she does, maybe she'll sing the safety messages. But really what we want to leave you with today is some of the unique safety messages that are kind of unique to this low floor system. So she'll talk a little bit about the differences between the existing LRT system, which is a high floor system, and the new Valley Line low floor or integrated with the neighborhood type system that we're dealing with now. And then after that, we're going to hand it over to the ETS folks. They're going to talk to you a little bit about the bus network and the on-demand service. And then following that, we'll get to all of your questions. So like I said, I was going to dive into the construction update next. So a little bit more about overview on the project. So all 13 kilometers of steel rail has now been laid. That is completely, you can go back, Isabel. All of that is completely laid across the project. And we're at a stage now where the road work is virtually complete everywhere. We have a few isolated areas to do. We have some top lift paving this summer that will happen in a lot of areas. The landscaping, with the exception of the River Valley, which I'll talk about very shortly, is largely complete across the project. And all of those poles and the vast majority of the overhead catenary system, or the OCS we call it, cables have also been installed. And there's just a few areas where we're continuing to do that. And Jan will go into more detail on that in a few minutes. So then specific to the River Valley area, let's first start with up on the hill. So that was the slide, Isabel, that you were just showing. You can go there now. This is the traction power substation, one of the more significant ones at the top of the hill, and it provides power that runs across the Dewatnow Bridge, but also in through the tunnel and to our substation that's next located in downtown at the Churchill Connector. So if you're living in that neighborhood, you'll have seen a lot of activity in there, especially in the last year or so. We're at a stage now where the equipment is going in, and we're making the final connections and really putting the final touches on those systems within the building. We don't have an interior picture here really to show you, but if you did see it, it'd be full of cabinets, full of ducts and cable supports in the ceiling, and lots of wires running all over the place. On the exterior, what we're showing here is an idea of what the landscaping will look like. So all of these different circles and shapes represent various tree species, and they'll be planted around the structure to provide some level of screening that complements the fence that is already around there. There's also some additional fencing that'll be installed. All of this meant to effectively blend the TPSS, or traction power substation, into its surroundings. And you'll see those finishing works happening this spring and summer. The next slide that we're going to show you is a bit more detail on the park restorations, if I recall. Let's wait for it to switch here. Oh, sorry, before I get there, I'm going to talk about the bridge, because that actually leads into the park restoration. So Dewatnow Bridge is a little different than what you see in the photos here, and the difference really being that the river berms have been removed. That is a significant step for us that we've been working on through the winter, and it allows us to launch right now, basically, as the spring is hitting and the ground is starting to thaw. It allows us to start doing the restoration of the parks on both sides. So I'll talk about that in a sec. The other thing that you see in the photo here is some of the platforms around the towers. Those have been removed. All of those cables are installed. Basically, the concrete work on this bridge is done. The rails across it, the overhead catenary system is across it, and we're now focusing on the underslung shared use pathway. Now, if you're in the neighborhood, you've probably heard me even talk about this in the past, and certainly would have seen some of the transit publications talking about that upcoming work in the schedule. what I can tell you right now is we are continuing to install the steel structure that slings, I don't know if that's the right word, but underslung bridge that supports the walkway. That steel and walkway will be constructed through the next few months, and really the bulk of the summer. Now, it's really important, and we want everyone in the neighborhood and the city, frankly, to know that even though the shared use path will be complete and ready for pedestrians, we won't have the connections on either side made at the same time. And the reason for that is what I was talking about before, and that's the berms coming out and now allowing us to begin our restoration of the parks on both sides. So to do that requires removing our laydown yards. And that is actively going to be going on here very shortly. All of the trailers and the offices and the supplies that you see down there will be removed. We'll reshape the ground a little bit. We'll start doing our landscaping, and we'll effectively work our way down the slope. And I'll show you a photo of that. Actually, now you probably go to it, Isabel. As we work our way down the slope, we have a little bit of geotechnical type work to do, just to bring full stability to that slope, particularly on the north side. I could tell you it will be in a better, stable condition, more stable condition than it was when we received it. So all of our design and activities are meant to enhance that stability. And that includes the landscaping that's installed on that slope. Illustrated here is really just a little bit of the ground cover. Of course, there's a lot more shrubs and trees that aren't really shown in this diagram. We're on the north side looking straight down, effectively where the bridge and shared use path lands on the earth. I guess it's all in the earth, but you know what I mean. It lands on the riverbank and makes the trail connections. You can see in the left-hand bottom corner, the World Walk Pathway. That is a slightly different alignment than it used to be, but basically achieving the same thing. So as we work our way out of the slope, do the geotechnical, put in all the landscaping, we also put in those trail systems, and we reconnect the River Valley Trail system in and around this area on both the north and south sides. Once that work is done, we can actually make the connection to the new shared use path underneath the Dewatnow Bridge. That work on both sides of the river and that connection will take all summer and into the fall. We expect to be able to open it to pedestrians late in the fall. I'm going to keep you hanging a little bit and talk a little bit more later in the presentation about when you can expect passenger service and the trains to begin running, and for you folks to jump on board. But you're going to have to wait a little bit. I'm going to leave you a little bit of a hanger, and we'll come to that at the very beginning of the Q&A session of the presentation. I think the next diagram we're going to show you is just a quick illustration of the, I thought there was another one of the parks on the other side, but that's okay. Henrietta Muir, Louisa May Kidney Park, both are being reestablished and will look very, very similar to what they did prior to Trans-Ed coming on board. There you go, now you can see it. So if you're familiar with that area pre-Trans-Ed, it'll look very much similar. They'll be the same kind of concrete, I don't know what we call them, I guess. They're pathways and plaza, that's the word I was looking for. That'll be established down there. It'll be a really beautiful place, just like it was before we came on site. Okay, Isabel, you can go to the next one. I want to talk a little bit about the public art. Now, if you've been across the entire alignment, you would have seen a lot of our stops that are basically complete. All that steel is up, the glass shelters are up, the sliding doors are in, which, by the way, those shelters are heated, which is another unique feature of this Valley line. And a lot of the art glass is installed. Now, on the Dewatnow Bridge, it's a little bit different. What we have here is some art that's been created by David Garneau. Now, he had asked for stories and memories from people in the neighborhood that he could incorporate into his artwork. What he has been creating and what will be installed is a series of 400 paintings that will run along the ceiling of the pedestrian walkway beneath the Dewatnow Bridge. The shape of each of the panel reflects local plants and animals and human-made things, and the content of each painting is informed by Métis and First Nations knowledge and material culture. The paintings will be arranged to suggest the flow and interconnectedness of people and the environment. You can probably tell that I'm reading that, and I've actually taken that information directly from the Edmonton Arts Council website. I'd encourage you, if you have the chance, go onto that website. I think Isabel's going to post the link here probably for you shortly. And check out the art that's being installed across the entire 13 kilometers of the Valley line. I think you'll find it really interesting, and it's going to bring a new level of beauty and intrigue, that's the wrong word probably too, but interesting and thought-provoking elements along the alignment that we're excited to start installing. You'll see a lot of that go in, perhaps even get covered up as it goes in. And that's just to protect it during the construction works and from any vandalism. But certainly by the time we open up the trains, all of that art will be fully visible. In the meantime, check out that website and you can get a good look at it and understand what's coming. Yeah, I think it's your turn. I'm going to turn it over to you take us through the testing and commissioning and help us understand all these wires and stuff that you guys are connecting all over the place.
Yeah, a lot of wires. Thank you, Dallas. Yeah, first of all, let's celebrate the big milestone for the project we have on the delivery of all 26 trains at the operation and maintenance facility done by the White Mud Freeway, the Millwood Golf Course, if you prefer, that part of the of town. 26 LRVs. LRVs stand for light rail vehicle, and I will use either LRV or trains to refer to them. So all 26 are in Edmonton, fully built and undergoing testing. I'll go back to it in a moment. And that's a great achievement. All those LRVs were assembled in our Kingston facility in Ontario. And from the first one that was delivered in July 2018 that you could see on the Bonnie Doon Mall parking lot for a open house at the time where we could do in-person open houses to early in February, 2 months ago, we have delivered all 26 LRVs. So again, a great milestone. And just for you to kind of imagine what that represents, if we had all LRVs one after the other and attach one to the other on the alignment, you would see LRVs for more than 1 kilometer. So that's take approximately 10 to 12 minutes to walk from one end to the other. So quite a lot of space and of vehicles that'll be running on that 13 kilometers alignment. So again, very good milestone for the project. You've seen those LRVs; they are all sitting in the operation and maintenance building. We can store them inside, so we can face any type of weather. If you're like me, you've just experienced a kind of a strange Saturday with 10 centimeter buildup late in April, well, mid-April, and there was a reminder that the weather in Edmonton can be a bit difficult, and but all those trains will be able to be stored inside. But don't worry, they also can run into those harsh conditions, and they're already running in those harsh conditions in other parts of North America, equivalent cold and snow. So I mean, built for Edmonton, very good in at handling those adverse conditions. Again, OMF facility is going to be a great tool as well, and it's a very nice looking building. Really shows a good light on the city when you come from that side. Overhead catenary system. So Isabel's going to talk more in details about the safety that goes around it. The overhead catenary system are the wires that you see, aerial wires that you see on the alignment, and they provide quite a bit of power, and that's what provides the power, the traction power for all the LRVs on the alignment. So it's a very powerful voltage that is used, and it could be quite dangerous. Now, on the alignment, it is safe to walk around, to walk under, no issue there. But you got to pay attention and consider that those wires are live. If you see a wire, don't consider anything else than those wires are energized. Means that you shouldn't walk with a ladder on your shoulder or play with kites below the OCS system, overhead catenary system, OCS. So again, very good progress on this. It's only the emerge part of the cables that are running through the whole system. Overall, we are roughly at 700 kilometers of cable to pull, and that does not even include the street lightings and or the traffic, the road traffic signaling. So if you can imagine, in any section of the alignment, you have approximately 50 to 70 cables in any cross section. So again, a lot of electronics, a lot of cables means a lot of testing. And in terms of testing, we are starting baby step by baby step to bring those trains on the alignment and walk them around, if I can use that image. So when I'm talking about baby steps, you see on the left-hand side pictures there the clearance tests that are being performed. So we use some cardboard templates that we attach to the train. We equip the train with them, and those represent the maximum size that the train can take. A train, when it's moving, can move right to left and up and down, and with the wear and tear and all that, it can change a bit. So what we have represented by those templates is the extreme worst case scenario in everything: maximum speed and maximum offset. And we are checking that maximum envelope doesn't touch anything, any piece of infrastructure. So that is for the poles on the alignment and on the outside or any piece of concrete. So let's be reassured. The design was built so that there's no conflict in there. And in fact, we didn't have any clashes when we performed our tests, our first tests there that were problematic. So again, those baby steps being done, and this is not done under the train own power. You would see a vehicle pushing or towing the LRVs to perform that test. Now, we also have the south side of the alignment that is partially energized. So we are starting to have trains moving on their own power. Again, same type of process, baby steps. We're bringing the trains. We have 6 trains out on the alignment right now. 5 are doing static tests. As you can imagine, those tests means that the trains don't move. We're just testing the inside, testing that it touches the cable and that we have the necessary reaction inside the train when doing those testing. And we have 1 train, number 15, is doing the first moves on its own power. So at the same time, we have drivers driving the train back and forth on a very, very short distance, very limited speed, and they will increasingly have more tasks to do. Right now, we're not even crossing intersection. That's not even there. What we're doing is we're going back and forth a few hundred meters, accelerate, brake. Then will come the time when we will go further on the alignment. But again, that will be very, very incremental in terms of implementation. So we will have at one point in the summer the interface with the traffic signal that will be commissioned, and we will be able to run through intersection. But before that's done, any run of an LRV, any movement of an LRV in an intersection will be performed with flaggers present. So again, I can't stress enough the importance of obeying the traffic laws and flaggers when they are present. So again, there's a lot to test. You'll see a lot of trains on the alignment. You'll see a lot of movement. You'll see a lot of equipment moving. And all that is to ensure a smooth and most importantly, a safe preparation for service with passengers. I think it's the last slide for me, Isabel. So yes. I'll pass it on to you to again emphasize on the safety on the alignment.
Yeah, thanks, Jan. Appreciate that. I'm going to take you through a little bit of the train safety side. I've noticed that a couple of people joined since we started the presentation. So once again, if you would like to submit a question during this presentation, please submit questions. We are going to be answering them at the end of the presentation. So the Valley Line Southeast LRT system differs quite a bit from the high floor train system that many Edmontonians and people on the call right now would be used to. So for example, there are no crossing arms, gates, bells, or fences with the low floor train system. And a couple of the safety features that I'm going to take you through, some will be more applicable during the construction phase, and others will be applicable from testing and going into the commissioning time when the trains will actually be out running and during public service commencement when you'll be able to ride on them. So the first one is to be aware of your surroundings and other road users and to stay alert while on the road. This photo was taken last year in the Strathern neighborhood, but is a really good illustration of how cars share the road with trains. And so you'll see in the middle that there is the low flow track here, the LRT track, and then on either side is where traffic would be going. So because again, just like Jan and Dallas have mentioned, our low floor train system, cars share the road with trains. Be aware of your surroundings and other road users and just stay alert while you're on the road. The second one is do not shortcut across tracks, only cross at designated pedestrian crossings. Just like I mentioned in the beginning, this low floor train system does not have crossing arms, it doesn't have gates, there are no bells, and there are no fences. So unlike what you would see at, for example, Kingsway, where you see the fences come down and the gates come down and the bells dinging, we don't have that with this system. And so we just ask that pedestrians and all road users, when you are trying to cross the road, you only cross when it's safe to do so and when the pedestrian walk sign says that you are permitted to do so. We encourage the public to remember to remind people, just be a good neighbor when if you're trying to cross and you see someone trying to maybe make the last few seconds of a run across the road, and you can just remind them that this low floor train system doesn't have fences, and for their safety to wait to cross until it's safe. The third one is to always follow the direction of the construction personnel and flaggers. Our construction personnel and flaggers, when they have these stop signs, just like in the image that you can see there, they're there for your safety. They're there for the safety of their fellow crew, and they're also there for their personal safety. And so when you see them coming and holding a stop sign and telling you that you can't go yet, it's because they have information of some moving parts that you can't possibly see at that moment. And we want to make sure that all road users get to their destination safely. We want to make sure that our crews get home to their families and to their friends safe as well. And so we ask that any time that you see one of our crews or construction personnel holding a sign in our active construction zones telling you to stop or telling you to go, we just ask that you follow their direction at all possible times. The fourth one is to always follow traffic and pedestrian signs and signals. Just like in the image that you can see here, some of the pedestrian signs and signals have been put up but are not yet active. So when you do see them active, we just ask the LRT system. They say that you just follow the rules of the road as you have known them, which is quite true. So when you see the traffic signals saying green to go, no left turns, on red, we kindly ask that you follow those road signage and you follow the signals and what they're permitting you to do. And also, if you see the stop signs just like this and no left turn sign, all these are there for your safety once again. So we ask the public, if you're even on an e-scooter, it's summertime now, so, oh well, not summer, it's spring. In my mind, it's getting to summer. But if you see if you're on an electric scooter, if you're if you're cycling on your bicycle, you're walking as a pedestrian, or you're driving, or you're just on your motorbike, we just ask that you always follow those traffic and pedestrian signs and signals that you see. The fifth one is to be aware that coming into contact with live overhead wires can lead to serious injury or death, and to keep all high-reaching devices such as ladders, outdoor banner light installation poles, drones, and remote-controlled planes away from the energized overhead wires. Jan touched on this, and Dallas touched on it as well. The overhead wires are energized at different areas along the entire 13-kilometer alignment. We ask that the public always assumes that these overhead wires are energized and they are live, because if you come into contact with them, there will be serious injury or death. And so we ask that the public, again, be a good neighbor. If you're maybe out taking a walk and you happen to see somebody flying or doing something that might get them into contact with these live overhead wires, we ask that you just remind them, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your neighbors, and let them know those live overhead wires are dangerous, and you never know whose life you might save, or who you might save from injury from just reminding them of those tiny facts about this low floor LRT system. And on that note, I'm going to pass it on to Basma.
Hi, I'm Basma. I'm with Edmonton Transit. I'll be here to introduce you to the new bus routes and on-demand transit that are launching on April 25th. So just an overview of the new bus network. It has two elements. One are the new bus routes and the on-demand transit shuttle, which complements the regular bus service and brings people to the regular bus routes. So here we have just a map of the network in the southeast. Just a little overview. So until the Valley Line is operational, we do plan to have Route 510X running similar to Route 15 from Millwoods to downtown, which is a limited stop connection, and it will be running high frequency from up to 3-4 minutes in the peaks and 7 to 8 minutes in the midday and off peaks, and it will run in all time periods. The local route network is designed to connect with the Valley Line in the southeast and to other areas. Frequent Route 4 will run along White Avenue from Capilano to West Edmonton Mall, similar to what it does today. And then the on-demand transit are the areas shaded in yellow, which have a little bit further walk to transit. So they're not covered by regular routes, but they are, because there's a little bit lower ridership in those areas, and they'll be able to have all day service through a shuttle that connects them to local hubs. So here's a map of the Route 510X. Again, it's kind of similar to Route 15, where it's limited stop from Millwoods to downtown via Millgate. And the idea here is that this route will run until the Valley Line is operational, and then it will end. And the on-demand transit, Cloverdale is one of the areas covered by on-demand transit. It's so you'll book a shuttle through an app, and at designated pickup spots or certain stops that are designated for on-demand. And it's not made to be end-to-end or like a DATS type of service, but more of just a connection to the local network. So you can book up to 1 hour in advance, and the wait time won't exceed 30 minutes. But we don't expect it to actually be that long, but we won't know until it launches and how many people are booking trips at the same time. You would get an estimated pickup time, and then you can also track your trip if you use the app. You can also book by phone, and it operates in all time periods. So Weekdays 6 to 10, Saturdays 9 to 7, and Sundays 10 to 6. So the map here shows the stops of the on-demand stops in Cloverdale, and they will connect to the Connors Road stop on the 510X, and in the future it will connect to a station, an LRT station. So in blue, sorry, if you don't mind going back, in blue are the neighborhood stops, and the green is the hub that it would be connecting to 510X. So see, these are some of the bus stop changing signs that you may have seen out on the road today. So the first one kind of is where we have a service change where certain routes are ending on April 24th and different route numbers are beginning on the 25th. An area that might have current service but will be replaced by on-demand transit would look like the second sign. And then within the neighborhoods, the on-demand transit would show which hubs you can connect to. And at the hubs, we have which neighborhoods you can connect to. And they still have the bus stop number, similar to today, which you can use to book on the app. So where you can find more information is on the website. So all the online trip planning tools are available, Google Maps or Transit app. So you can book a trip and just change the date to sometime after April 25th and see what a trip would look like. And then the Edmonton On Demand Transit app will, it should be launching actually this week, and you can download it, and it's quite user-friendly. All the traditional route brochures and schedules are on the website, and interactive maps showing the bus network and on-demand stops that we shared today. So overview guides that explain a little bit more about the bus network, and some educational videos showing highlights and how to book a trip on the on-demand transit app. So after the launch, so what happens after April 25th? We know this will take time to adjust, and this is not, the network is not set in stone. It is flexible. And we will monitor the performance, the ridership, the on-time performance, the schedule data, and plan to revise the network within about a year. And obviously customer feedback is very important and how things are going. The on-demand transit network is actually a little bit more flexible than the bus network because the bus network requires more fixed schedules, and whereas the on-demand is more flexible. And here's the links to the website. So just city website, edmonton.ca/new bus routes, and on-demand transit for more information.
Thanks, Basma. Now we're going to move on to the question part of this session. So once again, if you'd like to submit a question or a comment, if you are on your phone or your tablet, you just need to go to the bottom of the screen and you'll see a Q&A. Tap on that and you should be able to submit a question. If you are on your desktop or laptop, we'll just ask that you exit the full screen mode and you should see a Q&A. And if you click on that, you'll be able to submit your question or comment. So let's dive in. First question is probably what everyone on the call is wondering, which is, when can we ride these trains that we have seen? So Dallas, this one's for you.
I promised I'd come back to that at the end here, and we get that question all the time. I think I have to answer it at least a couple times a week, and perfectly fair question to be asking, especially at this stage of the project. It's coming together, as you can tell from what we've been showing you. For those of you that maybe joined late, just a reminder that TransEd is not here just to build the project. We're here to operate the Valley Line for the next 30 years as well. So it's really important to us that we make sure that when we do launch into passenger service and welcome people aboard, that we're set up for complete success, no interruptions, full service, and running just as it was intended to run. A lot of that has to do, of course, with the testing and commissioning that Jan was talking about and all the many, many tests that have to be run on the system prior to welcoming passengers. And that will take us the bulk of this year. I did lay down some hints early on as well when I was talking about the work in the River Valley, and I'll probably talk more about it here. We have to get questions on it, but it's important to understand that that's going to take all summer long and into the fall as well. So when you combine that last of the construction activities, the last of the paving even that I was talking about, that can really only occur in the summer, and the last of the landscaping, it will take all of the summer and the fall to do that, plus the commissioning. So what we are targeting right now, and we can tell you, is that we are targeting an opening before the end of 2021, so before the end of this year.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Dallas. While I still have you here, next question is actually yours. Is it possible to open up the pedestrian bridge before we open up the trail into Riverdale before the pedestrian bridge is complete?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. We get that quite a bit as well. So I completely understand why that would be asked, and it'd be great to have the east-west connections on the north or south side of the river. There is a problem with that though. So if we were to do that, we would introduce more safety challenges than we want to introduce. And the reason for that is, as I mentioned before, there's an awful lot of work to do in the restoration of the Henrietta Murray and Louise McKinney parks. And that includes some of the earthwork moving as well, which involves heavy equipment. So when you combine moving equipment, a lot of workforce, all of the restoration for the reforestation and naturalization that has to occur, all of those activities take up a lot of space, take up a lot of moving equipment and manpower. And if we were to have the trail system built ahead of time, so we haven't really explored it, but I imagine a person could, I suppose, pave the trail through there without having all the other earthwork done, although that'd be very unusual. You could, I suppose, open it to pedestrians. The problem with that then is you've got people, the public, moving through an active construction zone, and that becomes very difficult to control from a safety standpoint. We don't want to expose our workers, or more importantly in that case, the public, to dangers. So not saying that wouldn't be possible to do, it could be done. The trade-off would be significantly slower construction this year, which, as I mentioned, there's a lot of work to do this summer into the fall. So by opening that early actually would put us at risk of not finishing when I just said we would finish. And it sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but literally it would slow us down enough in the River Valley just to create that pedestrian access that it could put the whole opening of the River Valley system and all the stuff associated with that in jeopardy, which can have a ripple effect right to train operations. So we haven't analyzed it. It makes the most sense from a safety schedule perspective to just focus on getting everything done and then open up the entire trail network at the same time as the river crossing opens. So we're asking for a little bit more patience. We know it's taken longer than we expected to be in that River Valley. We did have some early challenges, and I'm sure many of you know, and I won't go into those details now, but those did set us on a path of challenges for sure. But we're working hard to get it open as soon as we can.
Thanks, Alice. Once again, while you're still here, is there, for the work that's happening near the Henrietta Muir parking lot, when do you think the trailers will be removed from that area?
Okay, it's kind of the same comment for all of our trailers in the River Valley. So we do have construction laydown yards. We've got trailers up on top of the hill. We've got trailers down on the bottom, north side, south side. That is the construction laydown yards that I was talking about early on as being one of the first things that we'll start to demobilize and remove. That'll be happening very shortly, within a matter of a week to a month or two. And that has to happen just so we can do all that park restoration that I talked about. So you'll start to see that pretty soon. Yeah, watch for that for sure.
Awesome. Question for Basma here. Which transit center will citizens be able to go to from Cloverdale?
So there isn't really much of a nearby transit center at this point. It's actually an on-street stop on Connors Road and 92 Street, where there will be a stop for the 510X. In the future, we're looking at the Strathern station with the Valley Line, or the Mootart station. There are some challenges with turning around at the Mootart station. and the on-demand vehicles accessing that. So maybe the Strathern station is the nearest one, so that stop. But in the meantime, it will be an on-street stop on Connors Road and 92nd Street.
Awesome. Thanks, Basma. A question for Jan here. This is about battery fuel cell technology that continues to improve. Do you look at other LRV, if you actually do research other trains, which I'm sure you do, what kind of, the question here, has anyone studied the possibility of having self-propelled electric LRVs? And without the cost of catenary systems, what kind of savings might be possible?
So, yes, most probably somebody had studied this. Bear in mind that this project was the initial primary study started 10 years ago, and we were not where we are now with battery and fuel cell technology. That being said, and it's a very, very interesting topic. I'm passionate about those battery trains, having been involved in some project in Europe using them. They are mostly used outside of cities because of the cost of bringing energization to rural areas. It's right now it is still more cost efficient to have a catenary system in urban areas. Something to bear in mind as well is that here we're using a low floor system. So when you use a low floor system, most of your equipment are on the roof of your train. It means that if we use battery, we would need to put those batteries on top on the roof of the train. And that has a very important impact on the balance of the trains because those batteries are heavy. And that's one of the main constraints we have with low floor and battery. It's trying to have the best of both worlds. But right now, it wouldn't be that cost efficient on the system. Those trains, once the cost of installation of the catenary system is done, it wouldn't be a cost efficient decision to switch to any other type of battery at this stage. For the future, maybe, but we are not there yet with systems where battery are efficient. There are systems that are starting to be implemented where you can actually recharge the battery from the ground and some other types of systems. But this is not the technical solution that was chosen for this project in particular. But yes, those technology are evolving. It's very, very interesting in terms of implementation in some cities. Not just on this project.
Awesome. Thank you, Jan. Somebody asked about the citizen working group meetings from 2019 to the current time of 2021. Yes, there have been citizen working group meetings that have been happening. We recommend getting in touch with 311. These meetings have moved on to the virtual world. So they're all done virtually. We just recommend getting in touch with the city to get more information on that. Dallas, do you have any information on how much longer the crews will be working into the night?
Yeah, I presume this has to do with noise that's created. So we recognize that, especially in the Cloverdale and Riverdale neighborhoods, that you have a bit of a unique geographical location to a lot of the work, meaning the river bridge, the tunnel portal, all of that work is kind of in the open of the river valley, and sound does travel a little differently than it does in some other portions of the alignment. So first of all, thank you for putting up with the noise that we've been imposing on your neighborhood. We've been doing our best to try and keep it down, but we recognize that's difficult to do, and sound does travel. To answer your question, though, I have good news and bad news. The bad news is work still continues, and it will impact some of the night. Some of the work will occur at night. I would tell you, though, the good news is that it's far less than what has been in the past. The other good news is that as the civil work, so the concrete, really the concrete work is the best way to describe it, is wrapping up, and a lot of that noise will disappear. But there will still be additional noise from construction equipment working in the daytime, primarily, almost exclusively, in fact, doing the earthworks and the reforestation and landscaping type activities in the parks. in the area, so that will help a lot. The remaining work then that centers around the bridge and really the systems, we call it the systems, that's kind of a construction term, I guess, but Jan's world, all of the cabling and the testing is far quieter than what the civil work would be. So you'll find the noise in overall will be quite a bit less moving forward as we work towards final completion. I mean, you can imagine testing a wire doesn't really make any noise. Even pulling a wire doesn't make much noise. There's a bit of equipment involved, but it's not the same as an excavator or a tandem dump truck backing up to pick up a load.
And while I have you on here, Dallas, can you speak to the fences on Corners Hill? Are there going to be fences there?
Yeah, actually, that's a good point, Isabel. I noticed what you said earlier, that the line doesn't have gates and bells. It does have very limited fences. Now, those are being installed in areas where our design team and our safety auditors and all the professionals that look at this stuff, that are even third party to the city and Transit, that come in and help us do a safety assessment. They have identified certain areas where fence separation is required between the track and an adjacent sidewalk or a shared use path or SUP. The Connors Hill is one of those areas. So the trail system or shared use path system going down the hill is close to the track enough that with the speed, particularly for a cyclist that could be going down that hill at a great rate of speed and lose control, let's say, we want to provide a level of protection from that cyclist entering into the trackway. So there is a separation barrier that goes along that area. There are a couple other very short areas where the road allowance or the road right-of-way for the track and the roadway is relatively narrow, which requires, again, the sidewalk to be a bit closer to the track. It is still completely safe, but it's made safer by having a separating barrier there as well. So a little bit of a railing type fence in those areas. And then the other areas that I want to be really specific on are really kind of unique, but very, very important. And they're very short areas of what we call channelization fencing. And that's installed to make sure that pedestrians, as they're approaching a crosswalk typically, or maybe as they're walking through a busier intersection that has, we call them pork chops, a concrete island that separates a turn lane from the through lanes. In order to make sure that people are crossing through those pedestrian designated pathways and not shortcutting, and shortcutting particularly across the track where they're not supposed to be walking, we'll put up these very short cable barriers. They're very, very small and like unobtrusive, is that the right word? But it channelizes literally the pedestrian to go where we want them to go. The other thing that it does is forces the pedestrian to turn their body and turn their head in the direction of the hazard, which could be a train approaching. So you'll see these very isolated areas at intersections and crosswalks, particularly, where a small piece of channelization fencing is installed, and just understand why it's there. It's there for your safety and to keep you walking where you're supposed to walk.
Awesome. Thanks, Dallas.
No problem.
Just looking through to see if there are any other questions that are coming in. Once again, you can, just going to give a few more minutes here if you would like to submit a question or a comment, just to go to the Q&A section, and you should be able to type in your question or comment. Oh, we have one here about when will the bridge open for pedestrians? Dallas, would you be able to, I think you touched on this earlier on.
Yeah, I did touch on it earlier. That's okay. Maybe the fella joined late. That's fine, or lady. It's okay. Happy to answer it again. So basically, there's a lot of work to do to reestablish the parks on both sides of the river, which requires us to demob our laydown yards. Once we can finish that work, reconnect the trail system, east and west through the north and south sides of the river, that trail system will connect to the underslung shared use path, which will have already been constructed by that point underneath the Duwatinow Bridge. All of that work will take the summer and into the fall. So we expect to be able to open the pedestrian crossing over the river late in the fall.
Awesome. And on that note, If you have any more questions or clarifications, or if there's maybe something that we have not touched on, please feel free to go to our website, www.transitlrt.ca, where there is a hub of resources with more information there, or you can call us 780-224-0964, or you can email us at info@transitlrt.ca. Thank you so much for attending the virtual spring open house. There will be a survey at the end of this presentation, and we ask that you take some time to fill it out, because we do like to hear from the attendees to find out how can we do a little bit better and give you some more information that you would like to see. Thank you to Dallas, Julia, Jan, and Basma for joining us today and sharing their knowledge on everything in their specific areas.